Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I think we should get started, right? Cool. Yeah. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to our yet another episode of the ArkreenTalk. Today we have Ehsan from Functionland. So we're going to learn more about their project solutions. As usual, my name is Abba. I'm head of product and partnership at Arkreen. So we'll be guiding you through this topic: Functionland, building the world's largest user-owned data ecosystem. So without spending much time, so I'll give Ehsan to introduce himself about and also give brief background about the project they are working on. So, hello, Ehsan.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Ehsan, founder of Functionland. My background is actually technical, so I've been a software hardware developer for 20 years, creating software hardware solutions for large corporations such as L'Oreal. And we started Functionland a few years ago, actually. It was the time that Google announced that they are removing the free tier from their Photos app. So it was a huge thing in Android. Like in the Android world, we are all using Google Photos to synchronize our photos with the Google servers. Like from our phone. And when they removed the free tier, it meant that now we are hitting that free quote that we have on Android very quickly, and it affected a lot of users. There was a lot of noise, a lot of like news around that. So me and K1, we decided to actually create an open source photos application. That was like just the initial idea. We wanted to have a photos application that is free. But if we wanted to host it on the central clouds, then we were facing the same problem as Google, like we had to charge users. So we decided to host it on Web3 as a decentralized alternative. It looked like amazing. So we hosted it on Internet Computer initially. We got a grant. We had some of the most attended spaces in the Affinity community. But then, due to some, at that time, some limitations for mobile native applications and file storage specifically, we moved to creating our own ecosystem for data storage, for decentralized data storage. And then the idea grew larger into a decentralized data ecosystem. And now Functionland is actually aiming toward creating the world's largest data ecosystem. And the difference between data storage and data ecosystem, I just want to quickly mention is data, like we all know like that like large corporations like now, such as Google, Apple, they are just more than data storage. They are data ecosystems, meaning that we all put our data there. They create these APIs that everyone else can use to interact with our data easily and monetize our data. So there are a lot of stuff that are around our data happening in these ecosystems, and that's what makes them data ecosystems, just larger than a data storage. And that's the aim of Functionland, to create a decentralized data ecosystem that now we are in control of our data. We have full ownership of our data, and we can benefit from the data that we have online everywhere.
Oh, that's very interesting. Thank you so much, Ehsan. Yeah. So you just reminded me, you just asking about the data ownership, data control. So what does Functionland define inalienable right to data ownership within or from the perspective of Web3 context. Yeah.
Yeah, like we all have seen these graphs about the evolution of Web 1 to Web 3. Like everyone knows Web 1 as read only, then Web 2 read write, and Web 3 read write own. But right now, the thing is that we have a lot of protocols in Web 3, a lot of like projects that theoretically on the paper, they give you the ownership, but without owning the underlying layer of everything we have, which is data. Data ownership is really impossible. You can encrypt your data, you can like do all type of things to secure the data, but ownership means physically owning your data, and physically owning your data requires an infrastructure. If we use AWS, like Google Cloud, like we can encrypt our data, but we are not physically owning our data. So to achieve that goal, what Functionland did was mixing the protocol side with the deep inside, so with the hardware side, to decentralize the infrastructure as well. Instead of relying on AWS, instead of relying on Google Cloud to hold our data, we now have these devices. We can run these, like everyone can run these devices at home and easily like set up a device, run it to store parts of the data in the network. And that means that everyone now is able to physically hold their data. They can still get the same benefits of Web2, like share their data, like with whoever they want. Everything is secured, encrypted. So all the benefits are still there, but we added that data ownership into it because we believe that, like in the recent world, everyone knows data as the, like oil of the century. So a lot of companies are built on top of monetizing our data, but they are not sharing that revenue that they are generating with us. With actually owning our data, we can control it. We can monetize it ourselves. We can actually benefit from the data that we are generating every day. And that also means we have more control over our path, our decisions in life. Because, like right now, if I talk about something, if I type something in Google, everything is going to those central servers, and they actually right away, I'm going to see a lot of ads about, like what I just searched on Google or what I searched on Instagram. And that's not bad, but the bad thing is I'm not getting any revenue because like they are using my data to actually to sell those ads to advertisers, but they are not sharing with me. They are just using me as a buyer, as a product, basically. So data ownership actually makes me able to participate in that process of revenue sharing with the advertisers, with whoever needs my data.
Cool. That's pretty interesting. Thank you so much, Ehsan. This is also a perfect model or description of the Web3 is all about. Now we are in a Web3, you know. So you just talk about, because we talk about data, that means generic or general data, like from your side, Functionland. So are you focusing on which type of data, like, for this kind of storage? I mentioned like, how does what are the limitations of the current, let's say, the photo, the video sharing platform that Porto aims to address? For example, from your perspective, how can you differentiate this kind of photo or data ownership related to video or the picture? Yeah.
Yeah, Functionland actually, like the platform is built to be able to host all types of data, like we usually categorize the data in three types, like cold storage data, cold storage, like that's the data storage use cases basically. So cold storage is for the data that we don't occasionally, access, like it's probably like we access them once a month, twice a month. So we don't require immediate access to that. Hot storage or real-time access is for the data that we frequently interact with. Like when I open Instagram, when I open my Gmail, when I open my OneDrive, I want to interact with my data immediately. And then we have a streaming data. So when like right now, for example, I'm speaking live and everyone is hearing right away. So these three types of data is what we support at Functionland. So the protocol is built to enable you to interact with your data in real time. So you can basically store data, edit them in real time, share it with whoever you want, and they can access it, expire their access. So these are the features that we have on the cloud, and we are giving it in our ecosystem. And streaming. So you can have like a streaming event on top of our ecosystem. Right now, as you mentioned, we built actually like an application that I mentioned actually initially in the introduction of FX Photos, which is an alternative to Google Photos or Apple Photos. So you can use it to synchronize your media files, photos and videos with the decentralized backend. But that's not limited to only photos or media. Like Functionland protocol is not just limited to those types of data. Anything like documents, videos, images, anything can be can be uploaded into the network. And right now, a lot of Web3 like protocols for file storage are either lacking support for one of these three categories. So they probably like some of them only support cold storage, so not real time access. Some of them don't support streaming access. Most of them don't support mobile native interaction with your data. So to interact with your data, you have to open a web browser in Chrome and upload or download your data. But the problem is usually people don't interact with their data through web browser. Like right now, I'm pretty sure most of us has joined this Twitter space with our phones. Most of us use mobile phones to interact with our data. And that's what Functionland also enables. We enable building applications, mobile native applications, which is the main source of interacting with our data, and enables us to now have applications like YouTube alternatives, Instagram alternatives, Twitter alternatives, anything on top of our data. And actually, like we all are hearing, like if you're following news, like you all know that Elon Musk, for example, he talks about, like he purchased Twitter for freedom of speech. But we all know that, like freedom of a speech or like any uncontrolled access to the data doesn't come if we don't truly own the data. At some point, like whoever is controlling a platform can decide to ban some people, can decide to censor some data. So unless we have true control, true ownership of the data, that aim can't be, can't be achieved. And like I believe true data ownership is the only way that we can have freedom of speech, freedom, like control over our data and our lives, actually.
Cool. That's pretty interesting. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ehsan. Yeah. So you talk about different types of data, the control of data, how the user can also share the data for the benefit. Yeah. So what are the biggest challenges in ensuring users never lose access to their data on the Functionland platform?
So, like, let me just give an example from the central board first. Like how Google or AWS or any of the central providers guarantee that your data is like stays in their servers accessible is through replicating your data on their servers. So when you upload something on Google, for example, they replicate it 3 or 4 times on their server so that if one of their servers, one of the locations of the servers went down, you still have access to the data from another server. But here, like now to bring the example to the Functionland ecosystem, what happens is we have nodes like hardware nodes running around the world. These are individually owned nodes, so these are not nodes that Functionland own or operate or control or anyone else actually. So individuals, anyone can run a node. And now when someone uploads the data into the network, what happens is first the data gets encrypted, it gets chunked. The chunks are being sent to the devices that are around you, like closest to you. And then we replicate each piece of data 6 times in the network, which means even if, like three of the network the nodes, like half of the network goes down, you still have replications of the data on some other nodes, and you can fetch them. And if the replications like falls beyond the threshold, then the protocol is constantly monitoring the network. It just fetches a fresh copy of your data and put it on another device if, for example, one of the devices goes offline for more than a specific period of time.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So the next question is, how does Functionland's approach guarantee global accessibility of information without restrictions? For example, maybe you can share because it's a decentralized, and some of the challenges of particular region or some particular places they have some kind of requirements. for the way how people use or accessing the data. Yeah, maybe you can share with us a bit from the function perspective of Functionland. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. So on the restrictions that you mentioned, I believe you are asking about both types of restrictions. One of those like legal restrictions and regulations like GDPR that, for example, require the data that belongs to citizens of a specific, like country to stay within that country. And the other is censorship, basically, which we think it's not really a legit restriction. Like some countries ban access to specific platforms, to specific data. Uh, Actually, it happened in Canada too. Like you may not know if you are outside of Canada, but at least in Ontario, we don't have access to a lot of news services. So if you open a news service on Instagram, you don't see the news. So these type of like restrictions for both, we have some considerations in functional network. So first, for GDPR, which is like a legit regulation, what we have is we added a concept called pools to the network, which means we have certain pools in different areas of the network. Right now, the pools are wide, but we can have them narrower. So, for example, we can have a pool in Europe, or we can have a pool in Canada, and then whoever uploads their data to that pool can be sure that the data stays within the nodes that are part of that pool. So, for example, I'm in Canada, I upload my photos to the Canada pool, or select the Canada pool, basically. So I select the Canada pool, and then my data stays within the nodes that are in Canada. So this means that the platform can be GDPR compliant and can accommodate those regulations. For censorship, obviously, we are against that. So, like when you have access to your data, you don't want anyone to be able to ban your access. When you want to distribute something to someone else, we don't want anyone to be in control of that distribution. And that's the same as like the financial world. When you are sending Bitcoin to someone, no one can stop that transaction. No one can prevent you from doing that, and we want to have the same with the data. So we don't impose any restriction, or we can't actually impose any restriction on the data itself.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, how can Functionland incentivize developers to build and monetize their products within its ecosystem? Do you have kind of maybe provision?
Yes, and actually that's the one of the largest parts of the Functionland network. So as I mentioned, we wanted to create a data ecosystem, not just a data storage. And data ecosystem means we need to have data storage providers, data users, and application developers, and content developers. So, like for example, in Google ecosystem, you have applications built in Google. We have users, we have YouTubers who create applications, influencers who create content. So we want to monetize it for all participants. For the storage providers, we already explained it. Like you provide the storage, you rent part of the storage of your devices, and you get paid for it. For applications developers and content creators, actually, it's going to be very interesting, because right now, when you create an application on a central provider or distribute a content on a central provider, a large chunk of your revenue is being taken by like these central authorities. So like by Google, Apple, a large portion of your revenue actually is taken by them. And you are very reliant on the distribution of your content or application to be controlled by these central authorities. In our ecosystem, what happens is whenever an application developer creates an application and distribute it, and the distribution happens through the any way that you want. Like you can distribute it through Google Play or App Store, through a third-party store, through a Web3 data store. So any mean that you want. You distribute the application, and whenever a user uses your application, part of the tokens, like part of the rewards basically that the user is paying is for the storage. part of the tokens goes to the application developers. These small chunks of revenue that you are earning from the application development, of rewards that you are earning from the application development, actually is like very small from each user, but combined together, like when you have thousands of users for an application, it grows to a large number, and actually larger than any central provider, anything that you can actually get from a central provider. For content creators, it's the same concept. So when you create a content, a video, for example, and distribute it on the network, whenever users watch that content, they get rewarded. So for the
Hello.
oh yes, now we're here.
Yeah. Seems like we lost connections. Yeah, I can hear you.
Uh, I think it was you, or was I got disconnected? If anyone didn't hear me, can you raise your hand?
Yeah, I think maybe from my side. Yeah. Yeah, we should. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that was like on the on the monetization side. I was just explaining that, like in our network, everything is monetized for both developers, application developers, content creators, and a storage provider. So these are the three pillars that are contributing to the data economy of a Fula ecosystem.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you talk about this kind of token distribution related to the product or content creator. Like, what are the specific functions or functionalities of this? You mentioned like Fula, if may I correct it? Yeah, token within the Functionland network. Yeah.
Yes. So for the utility, are you referring to the token utility, Abba?
Yeah, this Fula in your network token. Is it Fula?
It is Fula, yes.
Yeah.
That's the native token that is designed for the interactions that happen in the network. So the specific reason for having a token, and it's a utility token, like the specific reason for it is because, for example, when you provide storage to others, first you definitely aren't doing it for free, so you are expecting something. It's like a platform, like Airbnb. So you rent part of your room, and someone uses part of that room and pays you, right? So now for Fula, the thing is, when we want to record that transaction, you obviously you don't want to put your bank accounts public out there for everyone to see and everyone to pay you. So the token is just to make that transaction smooth and easy, and then from the rewards that you earn, you have the option actually to reuse them. So you earn rewards for providing a storage or creating applications, but all of us have tons of applications on our devices. All of us have a lot of data that are right now stored on Google or Apple cloud. So what we can do is we can cancel those subscriptions, and now from the rewards that we are earning from providing a storage, from creating applications, use them to store our own data, to synchronize our data, to use applications this time, basically for free, because we are earning tokens and we are spending them for getting services, from getting applications, from storing our data. So that means that, like we can reduce the cost of our storage, we can reduce the cost of our applications, and we can like, on top of having the full privacy and data ownership aspect of the ecosystem.
Cool. Yeah. So how does this FX blocks hardware you mentioned address existing barriers to decentralize in as decentralized storage solutions? Yeah, I believe. Oh, I suppose you have hardware, right? So you are
Right.
also, yeah. So can you explain a bit? How does it address this barrier for this decentralized storage solution?
Sure. Yep. So like as I was explaining earlier, one of the main problems in Web3 is like the protocols, the projects, everything is built around data ownership, but the underlying infrastructure is not owned by us. Uh, probably that all of our NFTs are now stored on AWS. So if AWS rug pulls at some point, and it will happen, it's just a matter of when it happens. Uh, Web3 is actually vulnerable to the same risks of Web2 at this moment, unless we take back the ownership of the infrastructure as well. So it's a hard thing, like we obviously, most people can't run a server at home. It's very technical. It requires, like a lot of things to be managed. It's very expensive. So to make it easier for people to own the infrastructure, we created our hardware product, which is called FX Blocks. So the aim for FX Blocks is give a cheap way, an easy way, a non-technical way for anyone to join the network as the underlying infrastructure for the data storage system. So what happens is now you can get one of these FX Blocks devices, plug it to the internet. You have an application that you can set it up through a few clicks, and then it starts to provide a storage to the network, so to yourself and to others. And that gives you an easy way to own part of this infrastructure instead of relying on it. So you basically become like part of AWS. But without the cost of a server, without the cost for infrastructure, like firewalls or expensive, load balancers or any of the technical hardware and software requirements, and without running a single line of code basically on your laptop. We also allow users to actually join the network with their own devices, with laptops, with Raspberry Pis, with whatever device they want. But FX Blocks basically gives them the ability to join the network with less technical barrier, with less maintenance barriers.
Cool. That's pretty interesting. Yeah. So, yeah, I suppose also you have this, you just mentioned about building an application. So you have API, right? So, what are the key features and functionalities offered by this API for developers? Maybe you can share in case there are many developers who might be interested to see how they can join and also build an application or, yeah, acquire your services. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually next year we will be holding hackathons and grant programs for application developers. Dora Hacks, you probably, like most people in Web3, knows them for holding hackathons. So they we will be coordinating events with them. So we have SDKs, actually development kits for mobile application developers that they can use to build applications. But the features that we provide is actually enabling them to create applications without the knowledge of Web3. Right now we have, for example, the MetaMask, a lot of the wallet applications, they also have SDKs, but just for interacting with wallet. But the problem with those SDKs is they are very central in Web3. So a Web2 application developer can't really go through interacting with MetaMask without a good knowledge of Web3. And they have to go through steep learning curves. This is what we try to take away from the developer. So we wanted to make it easier for Web2 developers to create an application that interacts with the data in the Web3 world. So that's like the concept of the SDKs that we provide. So any application developer, any mobile application developer can simply import our libraries into their application, build an application, anything basically. So someone can create an Instagram alternative, for example, without going through steep learning curves of Web3. So they don't need to know anything about wallets. They don't need to know anything about decentralization. They can import the libraries the same way that they create any application using, like any framework that they want, for example, like React Native, and create a Web3 app, but using their Web2 knowledge. So that's like the aim of our SDKs. And we will be, as I mentioned, we will be holding hackathons and grants next year for onboarding developers.
Cool. That's pretty interesting. Yeah. So I think maybe we are almost running out of time. Thank you so much, Ihsan. This is really well interesting, insight to share about, what you are building. So maybe one more last thing, maybe you would like to share with the users as some of the audience, or what message in terms of maybe you can share about your mission, the vision, the progress, and what should be the next, maybe in the next 5 years, how you should foresee the Functionland, yeah, in this Web3 ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Abba, for having me on the show, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Like for the next 5 years, what we will be hoping for to and aiming for, actually, as I mentioned, is creating a full data economy around the Functionland network, which means like the world's largest user-owned data economy. And when I'm mentioning the user-owned part, it's because right now we are contributing to the growth of these central corporations, even like ChatGPT, like we are contributing to the growth of those AI models. But we are not really benefiting from the revenue that these corporations are generating. So we are also like having like right now partnering with other projects like Singularity, for example, with the aim to be able to also provide decentralized compute and decentralized AI. And that means a few years down the road, we don't have to worry about the data that we are now sending to ChatGPT because we are using it. And that's actually raising a lot of worriness right now in organizations and individuals and governments, that what is happening to all my data that I'm sharing with these chatbots. So in the decentralized world, when we achieve that aim, you don't need to worry about that. No one can use your data. They can still like train their AI models, and they can provide the benefits, but they can't abuse the data. Let's put it that way. So we are right now, like we are progressing fast. A lot of news is happening actually every day. So I urge everyone, if they are interested, follow us on Twitter and Telegram on both channels. It's like Functionland. So if you search it, it comes up to be able to follow the news. We are announcing a lot of partnerships. We are actually going with our token listing soon. If you want to stay in the loop, feel free to follow us on Telegram and Twitter.
Yeah, that's thank you so much, Ethan. Thank you so much. This is really great, amazing. Yeah, thanks to the all listeners. I think that's bring to the end of our session. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Yeah. Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Yeah.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye.